I'm going to jump off from the last intervention in the previous panel, which I suppose one can call Global South. And Ambassador, when he opened this conference, said one of the huge challenges, not just for the conference, but for the world and for policy, is to get a much wider public consensus around the world. You heard the Vice President of Colombia essentially questioning the direction of flow. And I just wonder whether you think that the inability to create equality and equity during the pandemic, that the Global South felt totally cut off, that they didn't get the vaccines in the same way that the rich North did. I wonder if you both look back at that, despite your efforts, and wonder whether that might have contributed, inter alia, to some of the lack of support you have around the world for your Ukraine policy.
I think, should I start, my dear? Yeah. I think it is important that we're very clear about what this Russian war is. It is about Putin's imperialistic plans. And this is something where all of us, and mainly the Global South, have a very clear idea. It is completely unacceptable. And countries on the other side of the Mediterranean have a bitter and long-standing experience. First, you send the negotiators in, then you send, they see that the experts are being sent in, and then it's the mercenaries that are being sent in. So what we have to do is not only explain that we will never ever accept this imperialistic war, we will never ever accept that Putin is trampling on the international law that protects all of us, that the UN Charter, that is also in the interest, I mean, it's in the interest of every single country, is being treated so disrespectful, and that we will never accept that today you can send tanks just across the border to invade a country. And this is something which my experience in the last 12 months needs a lot of just hard work to work together with, as you said, the Global South, to make understood our point of view, but also to work with them on dealing with the knock-on effect of this atrocious war. This is the food crisis, this is the energy crisis, and that we do our utmost to deal with the knock-on effects in a way that the Global South does not suffer too much from Putin's war of aggression. This is our task. It's hard work, but it's absolutely worth it.
Prime Minister Marin, somebody as cult a hero around the
primera
world,
respuesta sobre el tema de la guerra, primera respuesta sobre lo que está ocurriendo en Ucrania, Von der Leyen diciendo que es inaceptable y que no vamos a permitir que a día de hoy, ha dicho, nadie pueda con los tanques cruzar una frontera, atravesar esos bordes e invadir otro país. Eso es lo que está elevando la tensión, no solo en Europa, sino también cuando se habla del mercado, del mundo económico, del mercado de comida, de alimentación o de lo que está pasando con los precios de la energía. Bueno, es evidente que esto está ocurriendo. Von der Leyen, que no se puede permitir y que no lo van a permitir a día de hoy. Curioso, como si se pudieran permitir o como si la gente hubiera querido permitir esas invasiones u otras guerras en otros tiempos. Desde luego eso no está ocurriendo. Efectivamente, la Unión Europea no lo está permitiendo, tampoco lo está atacando. En el momento se está convirtiendo más en una guerra de desgaste. Vamos con Sanna Marin, con la primera ministra de Finlandia.
When Russia attacked Ukraine, it violated all the rules, all the agreements it has itself been committed to before. And this is a problem for everyone, because then we will only see decades of this kind of behavior ahead of us if Ukraine doesn't win the war and if we don't stand behind our values and the international rule-based order. So I think this is a larger issue than just issue for Europe, just issue for Ukraine. And we have to do utmost to make sure that Ukraine will win and that we will preserve this system of rules that we have created together. And there was a reason why this was created. the wars before, world wars that we have seen, and it was devastating. And that's why we built a system where we can negotiate, where we can build peace, not use violence against each other, wars, attack another country to make a stand or gain something.
And to that end, when you came into office, as early as this time last year, you were saying
Sanna Marin, explicando también lo que con el tema de la guerra, explicando que efectivamente no se debe permitir este tipo de cuestiones, pero sobre todo lo da como por desfasado en una opinión bastante más suave, evidentemente, en esa vinculación que tiene, porque toda esta tensión con Rusia salpica y mucho a Finlandia. Hay que tener en cuenta que está pidiendo la entrada en la OTAN con cierta celeridad, con cierto punto de que todo lo que le ocurra alrededor tenga también mucho que ver con que se puedan ver atacadas infraestructuras energéticas.
And now we're heading towards very sad anniversary, 1 year anniversary of the war just next week. It was obvious that Finland will join NATO. It was obvious at the same day when Russia attacked Ukraine. The Finnish mindset, the most important thing for Finnish people is to make sure that we are independent, we are secure, we have a sovereign country, we can make our own decisions. This is the number one issue for Finnish people. And when Russia, our neighbor, attacked another neighbor, Ukraine, it was obvious that Finland will join NATO, because that's the line, that's the only line that Russia wouldn't cross. So it's to do with our security, it's to do with peace. It's an act of peace for Finland to join NATO. We have sent very clear message. We want to join together with Sweden at the same time. It's not only because we are good neighbors and good partners. It's also to do with very concrete matters. The security planning of NATO in the whole north, it's in interest of us, but it's also in the interest of NATO that Finland and Sweden will join simultaneously. And we have sent very clear signal and very clear message to Turkey and also to Hungary, that hasn't ratified yet, that we want to enter NATO together, and this is in the interest of everyone.
So no change.
Bueno, importantísimas estas declaraciones de Sanna Marin, de la primera ministra de Finlandia, porque ya saben que Turquía, de cara a la entrada en la OTAN de Finlandia y de Suecia, tiene cosas que decir, porque tiene ese derecho a veto, en particular no lo ha hecho con Finlandia, pero sí al respecto de Suecia decían que como se produjeron ciertas temas del Corán y una serie de problemas,
President von der Leyen, you remember very well this time last year,
es muy importante que dejemos claro que queremos entrar de forma simultánea. Es urgente entrar en la OTAN porque queremos mandar ese mensaje a Rusia, queremos entrar simultáneamente junto a Suecia. Primero de los dos mensajes que ha dejado Sanna Marin. El otro, muy claro también, Rusia es nuestro vecino y cuando se pone a atacar a otros vecinos nuestros, como está ocurriendo en el caso de Ucrania, lo que siente Finlandia es que necesita preservar su soberanía nacional, necesita preservar su independencia, y por eso la entrada en la OTAN de Finlandia es para ella un acto de paz. Hasta aquí de momento dos grandes mensajes también de Sanna Marin, de la primera ministra finlandesa.
Can you keep all your fractious members on board and people, 500 million people in the bloc?
Absolutely. I'm today more convinced than I was a year ago. But to set the record straight, indeed, our American friends, way more than a year ago, started to do something completely unprecedented, that they took their intelligence and knowledge and put it on the public market. This gave us an early warning. And my cabinet and the Commission started to work with the White House and with the Treasury already in December on potential sanctions in case that Russia would invade Ukraine. Indeed, we all hoped that it would never happen and we would never have to use these sanctions. But it was a tedious work day and night to align our very different trade systems, to develop sanctions that are targeted at advanced technologies and goods that are irreplaceable for Russia, and to be completely synchronized also within the G7. This made it possible that on day 2, day 4, and day 10 of the invasion, we were able to put on the table very heavy sanction packages. So there was...
Importante también esto que está diciendo Úrsula Von der Leyen, dice que en diciembre ya del pasado 2021, por si Rusia invadía Ucrania, ya estaban ellos preparando sanciones, tanto con el Tesoro, como con el Banco Central Europeo, como con la propia Comisión y con Estados Unidos. Y eso dice que hizo posible que en el día 2, en el día 4 y en el día 10 de la invasión de Ucrania por parte de Rusia, se pusieran en marcha esas sanciones.
Of course, we have many issues that we discuss. But here, from day one on, we were standing as one. We were united. We are united. And if you look back, I mean, through all the crises we have gone, including the energy crisis, and we have mastered it, today I can really say I'm deeply convinced that we will keep the unity and we will keep the determination, because it's about our values and our very existence we are fighting for.
Looking back 3 steps. First, when the war started, we were prepared, and the Commission was prepared, making the sanctions together with all our allies, and we were very fast of putting those sanctions on place. So we were prepared on that stage, that way. But looking back, now it was obvious that Russia will attack. We didn't want to believe it. We tried everything that we could to make a diplomatic solution, and that was, of course, the right effort to do, to trying to make a diplomatic solution. But looking back, it was obvious that Russia will attack Ukraine. They already used the energy leverage during that summer, during that autumn. They already used the energy leverage. There was different kind of disruptions with the energy flows during that year of 2021. They had put their troops in different places, saying that they are only training. Looking back now, it was obvious that they were planning this big attack against Ukraine. And then looking way back to 2014, when the Crimea was invaded, we made a big mistake then. We make a big mistake then together not to react more strongly. If we had acted and reacted more strongly towards the Crimea, then the war wouldn't happen. I think Russia thought that it would be just like Crimea, just entering Ukraine. Ukraine would give them open welcome. It would last only for a few weeks, and Putin would win very quickly and easily the war, because we didn't react 2014. And now we have to learn some lessons.
Bueno, Sanna Marin, diciéndose de gusto en Putin, dice que cometieron un error, que todos cometimos un error en el viejo continente al permitir que Rusia se hiciera con Crimea y no hacer nada, al más puro estilo de lo que quizá ocurriera con los pilotes en aquella Segunda Guerra Mundial, cuando Putin pronunció aquella frase diciendo que entre el deshonor y la guerra se había elegido el deshonor y que este nos iba a llevar a la guerra. Bueno, Sanna Marin, en una línea parecida, cometimos un error conjunto, un error muy grave al no actuar con mayor fortaleza, al no actuar con mayor determinación y fuerza contra Rusia, cuando se
we are investing in our defense capabilities, that we have that leverage and that we have also that threat present, that these authoritarian countries where Russia is a terrible example, that they don't use force because they are also, and they have to think also twice, will they use the force and what will be the consequences?
Therefore, and this is the question, and we're trying to figure this out. What does winning look like to you all? You all have said very strongly what you've just said, Prime Minister. But what does winning look like? And in for a penny, in for a pound, surely. Surely you have to go to the very end, giving all the support that Ukraine needs to fight this war for them and for you. Are you worried? Ammunition production is not up and running like it should.
There's some slowness, let's say, in Von der Leyen avisa de que ya habían preparado sanciones en diciembre del 21 por si Rusia invadía Ucrania, que esperaban que no pasara, dice, pero que por si pasaba. Y por el otro lado, importante esto que ha dicho Sanna Marin, reconociendo que se actuó, dice, con poca dureza contra Rusia cuando se anexionó Crimea, y que eso es lo que ha hecho que Rusia, evidentemente, pensase que puede hacerse con el resto del territorio ucraniano. Sanna Marin, que de todas formas, cada vez que habla, levanta el aplauso del personal allí en esa conferencia de Múnich. Volvemos, por cierto, hasta allí, con Úrsula Von der Leyen, la presidenta de la Comisión Europea, que en algunos comentarios la llaman Úrsula Von der Leyen.
Putin will completely fail. This is one goal, and that Ukraine is able to win. And what the military support is concerned, indeed, I think it's now the time really to speed up the production and to scale up the production of standardized products that Ukraine needs desperately. For example, the standardized ammunition. It cannot be that we have to wait months and years till we are able to replenish or till we are able to deliver that to Ukraine. What I thought is that we now take the European Peace Facility. It is in place. It is there to typically fund that member states give military equipment to Ukraine. So it's an established body. It has a coordination mechanism with Ukraine, and that we convene the defense industry of Europe, and we very clearly ask them, what is it what you need to scale up and to speed up standardized products? I'm not speaking about the highly complex production of specific things, but the standardized products like 155 millimeters artillery, for example. So need now to do the same like we've done during the pandemic. There too, we've said, look to the pharmaceutical companies. What is it what you need to scale up? We could think of, for example, advanced purchase agreements that gives the defense industry the possibility to invest in production lines now to be faster and to increase the amount they can deliver. And therefore, it is for us paramount now to support Ukraine in these existential things. I think a second element we should not underestimate is the economic security of Ukraine. Ukraine needs to survive economically. And there, it's good that we now have decided to have a regularly budget support for Ukraine, 1.5 billion per month by the European Union. Our American friends are matching that. And I think the international financial institutions should do more for that also. Okay. So it is the time to step up because Ukraine really needs the material to survive.
Well, what is a win for Ukraine? That's the Ukrainians.
Bueno, brevemente sobre Von der Leyen y seguida vamos con Sanna Marin. Von der Leyen hablando de que, y es curioso, con la que tiene encima liada, con una denuncia del New York Times por las compras conjuntas de la pandemia de las que no da explicaciones, porque se intercambió mensajes con el CEO de Pfizer, con Albert Bourla, y no ha explicado nada. Y además dice que son mensajes efímeros. Bueno, pues con toda la que se lió, dice Von der Leyen que Europa necesita, de cara a dar más apoyo en defensa a Ucrania, dice que lo que se necesita es compras conjuntas. Inversiones conjuntas, ahora iba a decir, en realidad más que compras, y que hay que acelerar ese tipo de inversiones. Vamos con Sanna Marin y enseguida les vamos dando más detalles.
Heavier weaponry that they have already received. And we have to send a clear message that we will continue this as long as it takes, as long as it's needed. They need financial help, they need humanitarian help, they need help rebuilding already the infrastructure. They are not waiting end of the war and then building Ukraine. They have to build it every day because Russia is attacking all the infrastructure very heavily. So we need to give them help, whatever they need. And it's their job to decide what are the terms that they could agree, what are the victory points that they need to receive. I think that Russia should leave Ukraine
and they think that
in every territory, but it's their decision.
Yeah. Okay. I think a very important headline is always for us, nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Right. They have to decide what for them finally is the point to sit down at the negotiation.
I mean, to be fair, they have laid it out in 10-point plans, 5-point
which is good and which we fully
laid
support.
It out. I need to go to audience questions.
Nada de lo que ocurra en Ucrania debe decidirse sin Ucrania. Acaba de decir Úrsula Von der Leyen. Y lo dice al calor de todo lo que venía diciendo Sanna Marin de las necesidades que cree, en su opinión, o que le están trasladando los equipos de Zelensky o miembros del gabinete de presidencia ucraniano, pero que necesitan seguir ayuda humanitaria, que necesitan también personal, que necesitan de todo. Lo que no ha mencionado de momento es que necesiten militares profesos de otros países. Lo digo sobre todo porque mandar armamento está muy bien, pero desde Negocios Televisión ya les hemos comentado en varias ocasiones y lo hemos analizado con los mejores expertos, que mandar tanques está muy bien, mandar incluso aviones puede estar fenomenal, pero el problema es quién los va a pilotar, porque son una serie de materiales de guerra que requieren evidentemente años de instrucción militar para poder ser manejados con cierta pericia. Entonces vamos a ver cómo ocurre todo esto. De momento no se habla del envío de tropas. Sanna Marin, la primera ministra finlandesa, habla del envío de ayuda humanitaria, de las necesidades que tienen en Ucrania e insisto, corrige Von der Leyen, nada de Ucrania debe decidirse en Ucrania. Habla la propia presidenta de la Comisión Europea.
But then it was Putin who within 8 months cut 80% of the pipeline gas supply to the European Union. from the Russian gas. Also thanks to the stepping up of our friends, the United States with LNG, Norway with more pipeline gas. But more important is even that it accelerated our work in the European Green Deal. So we heavily invested in renewable energy, which is homegrown, it gives us independence, and it's clean. We have doubled the additional deployment of renewables last year in the European Union, and last year, for the very first time, wind and solar delivered more electricity than gas did. What the other countries are concerned, because, and important is that we keep in mind that the tightness, the energy tightness of the global market is due to Russia's invasion in Ukraine. We should never forget that. But what indeed other countries are that suffer also from this energy crisis, what they are concerned, for us is important that our work together, for example, with the Global South, with Africa, is intensified on investment in infrastructure to have renewable energy, to produce, for example, green hydrogen. We're working now with the other side of the Mediterranean exactly on that one. So the big paradox of this conflict is if there's an accelerator for the European Green Deal and for global infrastructure in renewable energy, then it's Putin and with his atrocious war.
Yes?
Alex Sikorski, member of the European Parliament. My question is to the President of the Council, of the Commission, of course. We were lucky that the United States had Joe Biden as president when Putin invaded, and that they took the lead on helping Ukraine.
Bueno, la pregunta ya viene con trampa, porque dice directamente que tenemos suerte de que Joe Biden esté al frente de lo que está ocurriendo, ¿no? en Estados Unidos, y que por esa razón le haya dado, bueno, pues todo el liderazgo, haya podido liderar toda la respuesta en Ucrania. Recopilando un poco, mientras hacen la pregunta, recopilando lo que acaba de decir Úrsula Von der Leyen, cuidado porque se ha referido a los precios, a las tensiones energéticas, a esa crisis energética que se nos ha levantado encima. Dice que es culpa de la invasión de Rusia en Ucrania, y su solución ha sido decir que se está invirtiendo y que la Comisión lo está planeando, Europa está planeando una serie de expansiones y de inversiones en África que le permitan alternar de dónde se demanda precisamente la energía. Vamos con Úrsula Von der Leyen.
To support Ukraine and to fight side by side with us for the defense of our values, without any question. What our defense capabilities are concerned, of course, it's sovereign decisions of the member states, but indeed, we have progressed a lot in the European Union what harmonizing of the approach to the defense capabilities is concerned. It has very weird names, acronyms like PESCO, like CARD, you name it. But this is good. Thanks God we have it in place. We can build on that one. But yes, the emphasis has to be on a stronger defense posture.
Prime Minister Marin, do you think your country, your people, your policies, because it's you who have to do that, it's each country that has to decide, right? Are you ready? Because we heard that the peace dividend, we're out of that time now. Your defense budgets have to be ramped up.
Well, actually, Finland has always invested heavily on defense because we are a next door neighbor to Russia. We are already using up to 2% of our budget to defense, and we will increase this even more so because we want to be prepared. And actually, when we look back to this war and the energy crisis that we are in, Finland already diversified our energy mix way before the war because we have aggressive neighbor and we don't want that kind of dependencies that many other countries have had. I understand the logic, and it's very logical to build those very close economic connections and ties to try to make sure that the war wouldn't happen, because we have such a close ties. It would be so costly that we couldn't then see these kind of devastating things happening. But this wasn't the case because the authoritarian regimes, they think differently. And in the future, we have to be more prepared also when it comes, for example, new technologies. And I totally agree. I think United States, they will look towards Asia, even more so in the future. And we have to make sure that we are not dependent on those critical matters that we are too dependent now. during the pandemic, we were too dependent on medicine, we were too dependent on medical equipment. On the energy crisis, we are too dependent on Russian fossil fuels. Luckily and thankfully, we have done very much to get rid of those connections. But in the future, the big issue will be new technologies. Technologies, know-how, knowledge. So we have to also invest in our education system, the know-how, the knowledge base, and new technologies that we are not dependent on authoritarian countries from the East, because there might be dark clouds also in that direction. And if we have those connections, if we are too dependent, then we are also we cannot be sure that we are secure in that perspective as well. So our job is to make sure that our citizens, our societies will cope whatever happens in the world. So we have to invest. European Union have to invest, and also member states has to invest more in these critical matters.
I would like to, before I go to the audience again, if I get some time, I need to ask you both a question about the 50%. This conference is meant to be, 50% women.
Bueno, me permiten importante esto que acaba de decir Sanna Marin, y no es ninguna tontería. Dice que durante la pandemia se dependió y mucho de todo lo que había en los alrededores, y que en ese sentido se tiene que parar, porque lo que ocurre es que Europa no tiene una independencia, no tiene una fuerza suelta que le permita pues estar con su propio know-how y sus propias inversiones salir de aquí. En este sentido dice que no hay que pensar también más allá de la propia guerra, más allá de lo que está ocurriendo. Efectivamente dice hay que agradecer a Estados Unidos cierta parte de lo que está haciendo, pero deja caer un dardo, y es que la dependencia de Europa de la energía de Estados Unidos ahora está siendo crucial, importantísima. Y dice Sanna Marin, esto no nos puede seguir pasando, no puede ser que tengamos que mirar o aquí o a China. Hay que intentar realizar esas inversiones. Vamos de nuevo hasta allí. Vuelve a hablar la primera ministra de Finlandia.
That's a good thing.
But Prime Minister, that's all good. But if I was targeting this to you, I would ask you, why did you have to apologize for being a human being? You were found dancing. Oh my goodness, how awful.
Yeah.
And you had to apologize for being a human being. Why?
And I have also danced after that, that one time. I think there's a lot to be done when it comes to gender equality. It's very important that we have people from different backgrounds, different genders, but also different backgrounds in decision-making places at the same table making the decisions, because then we have the perspective of everyone. Women are the 50% of the world, so women need to be 50% of the decision-making bodies. I know that Ursula and the Commission is preparing to set a bill for companies to have more women representatives on the boards of companies. I think this is a very important step forward. I think also in the political system, we have to make sure that women have the possibilities to step up, to have their voices heard. There are a lot of structures within our political systems that actually prevent women to get those positions, to be heard. Many times it's enough that there's one woman. Look, we have these women here. No problem. We have women here, no problem. But we need more women, and we need really that 50% to make sure that everybody's voices are heard.
Sanna Marin, explicando en este sentido le preguntan por la condición de mujeres a la presidenta de la Comisión Europea y a la primera ministra de Finlandia, ¿no? Dicen que, claro, es la mitad del mundo y deberían ocupar, en ese sentido, la mitad también de administraciones, que ya hemos visto que se ha tenido en distintas instituciones y que en general Europa viene abundando en ello, incluso aquí en España, a través de las leyes de discriminación positiva que se llamaron, bueno, se intenta efectivamente equilibrar los puestos de mujeres dentro de los consejos de administración de las grandes empresas o de pequeñas compañías, dependiendo del tamaño, no se va a pyme, pero sí que es verdad que, bueno, pues se intenta equilibrar esa posición de mujeres y hombres dentro de los distintos consejos, dentro de las instituciones, y dice Sanna Marin también debiera dentro de la política. Vamos hasta Múnich, vámonos con Úrsula Von der Leyen.
That there are more women coming, growing up to the top. Of course, it's also a question of infrastructure. So I vividly remember my most difficult time were the first years as a minister with small children. And all these hidden prejudices, I got the question, I mean, in talks like these ones, have you already decided whether you want to be a bad mother or a bad minister? So there was this hidden prejudice. You cannot be either a good minister or a good mother if you are a working mom. We all know these prejudices. What we have to do is make sure that the infrastructure is there, that you have for young couples support with what is necessary in kindergarten, childcare, and good schools. We have to make sure that till we have an equal distribution of men and women in positions of powers. I'm an advocate for a quota. That's the reason why we introduced a quota in Germany. That's the reason why we introduced a quota now on the European level, because the time till women kind of grow naturally through the ranks is just too long. And therefore, still a lot is to do, but I can only recommend to women, hang on there, because we need you, we need your voice, and it's absolutely important that you're there.
I must add, thank you, Ursula. I must add.
Bueno, levanta Von der Leyen diciendo que necesitan a las mujeres, que necesitan que den ese paso al frente también para liderar y para estar en esas instituciones como está comentando, y vuelve a levantar también los bloques de la sala que esta mañana desde luego está entregado, parece. Volvemos con Sanna Marin.
So he did make that decision to went to a parental leave because they had a small child. So it's not only a job for mothers, it's also a job for fathers to take the time to spend it with your child, even though there's war in Europe, even though Finland is joining NATO. Our defense minister, Antti Kaikkonen, decided that his child is small only once, and he did take that parental leave. And I'm so happy that this is the equality in Finland.
One little anecdote, if I may.
Okay, they're making me rap, but hurry.
Okay, I had decided to have a gender-based college in the Commission, and I have to ask member states to send me candidates. So I told him, you send me a man and a woman, that I can choose my commissioners for the college. You can't imagine the outcry on that one. There were member states who sent me 3 men to choose from. So in the very end, I have my gender balanced college. So be stubborn and stay on the topic, then you will be successful.
Well, 2 great examples. EU Commission President Ursula Von der Leyen, Prime Minister of Finland, Sanna Marin, thank you very much for joining.